What's up, guys? This is Joshua Stewart of Cosmic Worship, and you're watching Data Worship TV. My father passed away a little over a year ago from a heart attack. It was one of the most traumatic things I've ever experienced. To rewind back, it was the morning, 5 a.m., November the 2nd, and only thing I remember is my mom rushing in the room saying, "Your dad's not breathing, your dad's not breathing." And the first thing I thought to do was just to rush in the room and give him CPR. I've never given anyone CPR before. I've never done anything like this. All I knew is that my mom needed me, my dad needed me, and I had to jump into my role. My mom was panicking, and my little brother was kind of just standing there in awe, like, what is happening? So I just, at that moment, I just felt the need to do what I did, was try to give CPR. And I'm crying to God. I'm like, God, come on, you said in your word, and I'm crying out God's word back to him, and I'm repeating it, and I'm saying that I'm speaking my dad to rise, and he's not moving, and I'm breathing air into him as the person on the phone is telling me how many times to pump, and how many times to breathe, and how many times to do that, and it was just traumatic, and it felt like it went on for 8 hours when it was only about 15 to 20 minutes before they actually got there, the paramedics. And in that moment, while they were pumping, I was just praying and talking to God and saying, God, please, please, please let my dad get up. Not like this. This isn't the time. We're unified. We're together. We're enjoying life together. This isn't that time. I know. With your word, God, I know for a fact he's going to get up. I know it. And as I see them still pumping as they bring him out bringing him to the hospital, I'm like, what's going on? What is going on? But I'm keeping my composure because I know my mom needs me and I know my little brother needs me. So I'm keeping my composure. At the same time, I'm questioning God, like, what are you doing? What's going on? Why is this happening like this? And we get to the hospital and we're sitting in this room and the doctor says, I'm sorry, but he passed away. And in that moment, it was just tears and crying and everything. And I still hadn't released my pain yet. I still hadn't released my hurt. I was more focused on being there for my mom and my little brother. And we got to see my dad one more time. They asked, do you want to see him again before, you want to see him one last time? And we were like, yeah, of course. And we go back there and my mom's still crying and my bishop and pastor at the time they came with us in there. But when we went to see my dad, they kind of held back and we had our moments and talking to my dad, even though we knew that was it. And as everyone said their thing, I walked up to him and I said, I'm going to never stop worshiping. I don't know why that was the thing that I said. I'm never going to stop worshiping. I don't know why that was the one thing that I said, but that was what I stuck with. I said, Dad, I'm never going to stop worshiping. Because he was my biggest fan. He would put out my music before I put it out. If I let him hear a track before anyone else, he would share it with all the family. So I just let him have his way with it. But I told him that because I knew how much that meant to him. Because my little brother, he was the sport player. My big brother, he was the Navy guy. I didn't have that thing until I started becoming a Christian artist. And that was the thing that I felt like he was proud of me for that. So when he left, I kind of felt like God was trying to see if I was still going to worship him the same way now that my biggest supporter is in there. So fast forward 5 months, I stopped worshiping. I stopped playing my guitar. I stopped everything. And one day I was just like, I was off of work. I said, I'm going to practice my guitar. I'm going to play something. So I start playing. Now the night before, the fireplace was lit, and this morning, the morning of, it had went out. It was a couple embers, but nothing lit. And I start to play, and maybe about 5-10 minutes later, I noticed that the fireplace is lit, but I don't really pay it any mind. So I just stopped playing. And my fiance comes over to cook me tofu, and I said, babe, while you cook, I'll continue to worship. I'll continue to play. She said, yeah, that's fine. And as she's cooking, I said, I'll continue to play. And the fire had gone out again since then. So it was out, ignited when I worshiped, went out again. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep playing. And so I start playing again. I start worshiping, and I hear my fiance say, "Hey, before we leave, let's make sure we put out the fireplace." And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "I'm not tripping. Just make sure we put out the fireplace before you leave." And I'm like, "Wait, the fireplace wasn't lit." And she was kind of looking like that, and I'm like the fireplace keeps lighting every time I worship. And I didn't get the revelation until later on. It's like, if you stop worshiping, that'll stop the fire from igniting in someone else that you don't even know. And even greater than that, that'll stop the fire from igniting in you if you stop worshiping. And that was just the craziest thing. Like God took some negative situation and made it be my fuel. He made the loss of my dad be the fuel of my worship. It's the craziest way to think of it, but it's just God letting me convert my pain into passion, and that was God daring me to worship in the midst of a time where you shouldn't worship. You shouldn't worship God. Your dad just died. You shouldn't worship God right now. You should be sad. You should be emotional. You should be in a place where you don't even want to talk to God because He took from you one of the greatest things in your life. But that was a time where I said, no, I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to worship and worship and worship. And He gave me this number nights later. He gave me a number of 10,000. And I was trying to figure out what that 10,000 meant. And then 10,000, He revealed to me that 10,000 was the amount of people and amount of souls that I would not reach if I stopped worshiping. That's how many souls I'm accountable for. In my mind, from that number from God to me, I'm accountable for 10,000 souls if I stop worshiping. So when I get to heaven, God's going to say, you did great on heaven. You did great on earth. But there's 8,886 people that you didn't reach. Thanks for a little bit over 2,000, but there was some you didn't reach. So I don't know if I can let you in here. So I feel like if I stop worshiping, that's my key to heaven. My key to heaven is in my worship, in my obedience. And even during that time, I was tested. I was tested I was given the challenge of being dared to worship. I was given that challenge in the midst of what I was going through. And I was still challenged throughout the whole thing, and I still am to this day. I still have dreams of my dad. I've had dreams of my dad corpse walking up to me and falling again in front of me, and me trying to revive him, but I can't move. I've had dreams of my dad. I'm looking at my dad, and I'm like, hey. And I look at my little brother in my dream, and I look back at dad, and he's gone. I've had crazy dreams, but God allowed me to have this one dream that kind of sealed everything, and He attached a song to it. So the last dream I had of my dad that was just kind of like, I don't even want to have those dreams, was I woke up in the middle of the night at 5 a.m., the same time that my dad passed away. And it was his laptop beeping, his old laptop beeping, sounding like a heart monitor. I kept hearing that noise and I couldn't sleep. I was restless. In the morning, my mom said, that was your dad's laptop dying. So I'm like, what in the world? What's going on? And these dreams kept occurring. But this last dream where my dad was laying across a long board in a really big hole, and I see him move, and I yell and I scream and I wake up. My mom wakes me up. She's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I was just dreaming about that. And God told me to go back to that dream. And I'm like, how can I go back to a dream? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But okay, so I constantly start thinking about that dream. I try to go to that moment. And when I saw him move, I go to that moment, and he's standing up now in the dream. Like, I'm dreaming. Like, I think about it so much that I really go back to this moment. And I'm thinking of him, and I see him standing up, and I'm scared because all I know is my dad's gone, and this dream is making him stand up and stare at me. Now, his mouth didn't move, but he just stood there and looked at me. Now, my dad spoke to me no time in any of my dreams. So he stood there and he looked at me, and I can feel passion and compassion and love in his eyes. It's the weirdest thing. I can feel it. I can feel it through his eyes saying, I'm okay. He said, I'm okay. It's okay. He told me that in the dream that he was okay. And him telling me that was a release. But not only did he tell me that, it was like his mouth never moved. It's like it was like we were talking mentally. And the last thing I remember is him hugging me in the dream. I don't even know how he got that close to me. He just hugged me in the dream, and I felt it. It's like I know I was asleep, but I know I felt it physically. It's like God let the Holy Spirit hug me in the midst of getting comfort from my dad. It was just the most spiritual encounter that I've ever had. And that it's okay part revealed a song for me. It's simple. It just says it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Said it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Said it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. And every time I go to worship somewhere now, I see if it's the right setting and I work that song in. And every single time that song is electric. It's electric. It's electric. It's electric. That song has done greater things and I've only done it 4 times. I've only done it 4 times. I'm very cautious about when I do it because I want God to tell me to do that song. And when He tells me to do it, I do it. I cancel whatever set list I had. I change everything and I just do that song. And the last time I did that song, it just blew up. I mean, that song has been featured on K104's Instagram. Like K104, the R&B hip hop station, came out to a sickle cell walk that I sang at outside. And out of all 13 or 12 artists that were there, they ended up coming late and I was the last one to perform. And they caught my performance and they caught that song. And that was just kind of like another little confirmation of God just telling me, like, I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to provide everything you need. I'm going to give you every song. I'm going to give you your confidence. I'm going to give you every part of your life that you need. You don't have to worry about the fact that your dad's not here. He was just a physical support that I gave you. But I'm that spiritual support that you need. You can live without your dad because those memories live inside of you. But you need to rely on me every day for everything because I'll be the one that provide everything you need.
You're watching Dare to Worship TV. Watching Dare to Worship TV. Watching Dare to Worship TV. TV.
It's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Said it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Said it's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Okay. Okay. Everything's gonna be alright. It's okay. It's okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's okay, okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Okay, okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Okay, okay. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Thank you for watching Dare to Worship TV. This is Joshua of Cosmic Worship, and I dare you to worship.